It's a good tuna, but I think I paid too much.
I always wear my mask and wash my hands after going home.
I am the king of the ring.
Welcome to the Japan What Podcast, episode 198. And I am your host, Matthew PMBigelow.com. And I'm coming at you from the Aizumicho Studios in Shinjuku, Tokyo, Japan. The home of Asia. Covering Japan Society 5.0, AI market trends, rising conflict in the Indo-Pacific, Japan's migration issues, depopulation, and more. Thank you for coming along with today's adventure show. Yes, it's an adventure show today. What do I got to say about that? Nothing much. But we're going to cover, first of all, on today's show, the supply chain war. And this will tie into some AI market trends and how kind of I'm getting a little freaked out about these AI agents. And I don't ever say I'm freaked out by AI. I've been covering AI for about 10 years now. And something about these AI agents are freaking me out. It's going to dramatically alter the state of everything, perhaps. And I don't say that lightly. I go to bed thinking about it now. Have I become what I've always mocked? Perhaps that is the case. And if so, I will be mocking myself in due course. So, yeah, you know, it's February. Hopefully your goals are going all right, or you just forgotten about them all. Actually, you know what? Just as a health note, I've taken a break from the booze like 5-6 days now. Just like sometimes I have like one beer, sometimes a few beers. I've been off hard bar for more than a year now. But I've just noticed it's like, wow, the bloat. Everybody says it, but if you're having a few beers every day, you're like, whatever. But you take a break from beers for like 5-6 days. You're like, oh, my cheekbones are a little, It's like, hey, maybe I'm less fat. And you're like, I'm still pretty fat, but maybe I just don't have as much fat as before. Not really that fat, but just everybody in Japan is so slim. If you have like 2 kilograms of like extra weight all over your body, just not centralized in your stomach, you feel like a fat POS. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We should be shaming everybody into becoming as rail thin as possible so that we can progress through life in a semi-anorexic state. Thank you, Japan. No, actually, I quite admire the Japanese for maintaining healthy bodies and healthy conditions and stuff like that. Sometimes you go to a park and there's like some 65 or 75-year-old woman playing with a dog and she's like doing squats and you're like, what? Okay, sure. China too. A lot of Asian countries do that. Just they sit on the floor and they stand up and get up all day and so they can crawl around for their whole lives. It's an admirable thing. And I don't think a lot of Westerners appreciate that because we get up from chairs and we walk to another chair and then sit down in a chair. And we're like, why are you sitting on the floor, you pagans? Be good Christian soldiers and sit in this chair. Destroy your sciatica, your posture. Everything must go because we are not savages. No. All right, well, let's take a look at the supply chain war. Die for the war. Everybody moves. Die for the good, Die for the war. Die for the war. All right, the supply chain war is getting a little nutty, getting a little crazy out there. And this ties in with the progression of AI and and a lot of things. Like one example that I've just been thinking about, recent analysis indicates that the Chinese ships dragging their anchors across undersea cables in the Baltic Sea in Europe and stuff like that. What if that's to reduce the amount of compute that can be shared across nations? Because if AI is a race for compute, if you hamper rival sectors' compute power, then it gives your compute an advantage. Something that I was just thinking about. It's like, why are they doing that? Well, maybe they're trying to interfere with compute. It's certainly disruptive. And the supply chain war kicked off in about really like with the Belt and Road Initiative by China, but really in 2020 with COVID, after COVID was released, perhaps intentionally, from the biolab in Wuhan. I'm just saying it now because it's fine. I'm not going to be accused of being a racist anymore. That's just, I don't think it was climate change in a wet market that led to it. So if that's your deal, you go with it. I'm progressing in a different. I've always been on this train, but I'm just announcing it now. And the Chinese government shut down Wuhan, and that was a international hub for everything. Look into it: computer parts, cybersecurity, car parts, chips, what you name it. It was going through Wuhan. Chinese government closed it down. That sent shockwaves through the Western supply chains and even Chinese supply chains. But they're trying to commandeer enough of the international supply chain routes to avoid using the U.S. dollar, replace it with the renminbi with an AI navigation set fueled by Huawei telecommunications networks that allow customers in Africa and China to sell and buy with each other via Chinese shipping routes that don't use U.S. infrastructure at all. Because why would you use U.S. infrastructure? What is U.S. infrastructure right now? It's a big thing. For the past 20, 30 years, the U.S. has been exporting all of its infrastructure building capabilities for the most part, yet still claiming that it's owning everything. And I'm a big supporter of the U.S. in many ways, but I can see why a lot of other countries would just say, you know what, we're going to go our own way. Because why wouldn't you? If you have the means of production, you have the means to do whatever the hell you want. So this is one aspect of the supply chain war. And the dragging of anchors across the subsea cables in Europe is a part of that. And it could be even a test, or it could just be China helping out Russia, saying, we got your back. We got your back. We're not going to supply military, but we got your back. Who knows what it means? But this the supply chain war also extends into the the South China Sea, which China's trying to take over for its supply chain routes, in my opinion. And it's trying to use forward projecting naval power to secure those zones to make them exclusively owned by China. And again, it's to just put Chinese infrastructure into the oceans and then not use the US dollar around it, so they have sovereignty over their own supply chain routes. It's very smart, and it's very effective. And today we're going to take a quick look at that before going into the crazy AI agents and analyzing some of that. And I do have some analysis that nobody else has, because I worked at the companies that are developing this for 5 years, about 5 years ago now, but I'm aware of their business practices. So it's a little bit of a teaser, but it's not just going to be reading headlines, because I actually might have just a little smidge. It's all I can offer is a smidge that maybe no one else has. Anyways, new unreported submarine in China leaves West guessing. This comes to us from navalnews.com. And of course, China has become a major naval power in the past few years. Their output of ships far exceeds anyone else in the world, and especially naval ships. They're producing hundreds of them a year. And like I said, with the South China Sea, they're aiming to just flood it with their ships and de facto take it over, and everybody else will just humbly say, thank you, China. You are awesome. Now what do we do for you? That's kind of the overall goal, I believe, of the CCP. Now, of course, it's dressed in things like mutual beneficial trade agreements and all that, but a hegemon is a hegemon, and we all know what that is. I was a Canadian living in Japan, underneath the U.S. hegemon, you know that it's good and not good, so okay, sure, it's not all fine and dandy all the time. But this new Chinese submarine was observed in January 2025. And I'll be including a picture of this submarine at MatthewPMBigelow.com, the official website for the Japan What podcast. So this begins with China's incredible naval expansion and modernization continues. The latest surprise is yet another new and unexplained submarine. The boat, whose designation is unknown, has a distinctive ultra-modern layout. Ultra-modern. Along with the rapid building of invasion barges at Guangzhou Shipyard in southern China, a submarine has entered the scene. The shipyard is not known for submarine construction, but the presence of the boat is revealed in satellite imagery. The new boat was noticed in a floating dock by defense watcher M.T. Anderson. Naval News is able to confirm that this is a new and previously unreported design. China has, once again, surprised analysts by building a submarine in secret. Western submarines are reported in media years before they are even laid down. While there are always secrets surrounding their design and capabilities, their existence cannot be kept secret. China, however, has the submarine is distinct from the recently revealed Type 041 nuclear battery design, which was launched at Wuchang Shipyard near Wuhan. Oh, Wuhan strikes again. People underestimate Wuhan. It's seriously an important place in the world for manufacturing and design. This design is smaller and likely has a different propulsion type, not nuclear, and mission. Might be lithium, who knows? It is also different from the Olympic submarine. Let's take a look. The new boat has the outward appearance of an uncrewed vessel. We expect these types to omit the sail since there is no crew to need an access tower high above the waterline for use at sea. China and indeed other leading navies have active programs to build extra-large uncrewed subs, and China's program is the largest and most extensive with at least 5 types in the water. But if this is the case, and it is a extra-large uncrewed underwater vehicle, or an XLUV, then it is the largest in the world. The role of the new submarine remains unclear. Anyways, it kind of goes on from there. But you can just imagine it's basically a submarine probably filled with surveillance equipment and massive amounts of torpedoes. And it goes around, and if it sees something it doesn't like in the Taiwan Strait, it might start taking it out. This would be interesting because this leads into the next, some future articles that I'm going to outlay in this, or lay out in this segment. What if this submarine is designed to locate LNG transport ships coming from America into Asia? Because China doesn't want America turning Asia into an American-dependent energy sector. Because that's what eventually I think the Americans want. They're going crazy right now. The way that they destroyed Europe's reliance on Russia, which it may have had the right to do, because Europe is relying on U.S. for defense, but then importing all this cheap energy from Russia. Maybe they're pissed off about that, so they bomb it, as Americans do. Just bomb it. And what if they also want to apply that same business strategy to Asia? All of these growing nations, all of these energy-rich nations or energy-loving nations, they need more energy. Why not get that energy from America? So China might say, no, we're going to use these submarines and we're going to torpedo those because we don't want those supply chains interfering with our supply chains, thus adding to the supply chain war. Just a couple of things regarding that. And this doesn't focus on Japan so much, but it does in terms of Japan and China, and Japan being pushed right up against China in the Pacific here. Just quickly here from NHK, Panama will not renew agreement with China on Belt and Road Initiative. That's one thing, and this will tie into the next article as well. Greenland PM calls for election with Trump pressure mounting. So there's that as well. And this final one, exclusive. Japan weighs Alaska LNG pipeline pledge to win Trump's favor. So for a long time now, for the past 5-6 years or so, there's been an LNG agreement between Russia and Japan via the Sakhalin Island, which is north of Hokkaido there. And after Russia invaded Ukraine or went to its defense, however you want to say it, Japan was kind of forced to make a choice here, and they might be backing out of the Sakhalin agreement, but they still need LNG. So if Japan doesn't want to see the same fate, and it is very risk averse, maybe it will just go for Alaska in advance for the secure LNG route. Because from Alaska to Japan, you just follow the arc of islands there. There's the Kurils, there's the Aleutians and all that. So there's this idea of the supply chain war being shifted towards America favor right now. And it is being shifted towards America favor. Now, with China being kicked out of the Panama Canal, this also reflects Russia and China's movements to Greenland as well. So if you think about the geopolitical significance of this, or the geographical significance of this, if you have Russia and China moving up towards Canada on the north, and China and Russia as well is involved with Venezuela pretty heavily into the south. It's almost like a pincer move where China is peeling off more territory to the south and Russia might be trying to peel off more territory to the north, thus putting America into a pincer movement. So by the Americans gaining control over Greenland, it would position American forces to push back against that movement. And then towards the Belt and Road Initiative in the Panama Canal, it would reclaim America's presence in that area and also provide America, with the route it needs to move its navies from one ocean to the other. And so it would just push back against this move from China and Russia into these zones. And so without Japan kind of funding Russia's LNG movements and Japan funding instead the American movements, well, it detracts from Russia's ability to gain money to fund such projects and things like that. So I'm not going to go too much into it, but it's not just one thing and then one thing. These are very connected. And I could understand America being a little paranoid about those things kind of converging, especially because Canada is so weak right now. And during Trudeau's term, he did train with China in Canada for Arctic military preparations and things like that. And there's a large amount of China control in Western Canada right now. Vancouver has those Chinese police stations with the insignia of the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, on the police station itself. So there's like this tacit approval of China operating police stations. The laundering of money and the production of fentanyl is huge over there. So there's this, not only just supply chain routes, but using them for drugs and shipments and stuff like that. And while America never really had an issue, prerogative for shipping a huge amount of drugs into China, the British did. And at the time, Canada was a British colony, very much so. And there were opium production plants in the Vancouver area shipping a lot of drugs into China, opium and stuff like that. So regarding China wanting revenge, well, maybe, or just under the guise of revenge, or just, sticking it back at you 150 years later, there might be using that as an open wound to gain further entry into potential enemy territory under this so-called supply chain war. So that's going to be that for that. But the main one was, this new drone submarine from China. All these people saying China's collapsing. China just can't make it. They're just going to go. Look at their real estate market. Therefore, the whole country is doomed. Meanwhile, they're just like churning out ships and investing everywhere and building ports and automation to the max and everything like that. Oh no, they're going to collapse. That's CIA propaganda ringing in your ears, telling you to go to sleep. All right, supply chain war. Die for the war, everybody moves. Die for the good, die for the war, die for the war. Japan Society 5.0.
The fourth industrial revolution will enable us to create a new society. Artificial intelligence will transform the big data collected through the Internet of Things into new wisdom. Society 5.0. A technology-based, human-centered society. The fourth industrial revolution will raise our standard of living and solve various challenges we face. It will, for example, free us from the stress of driving, allowing us to safely visit anyone, anytime. We will have access to the latest medical advancements at a low cost, no matter where we are. AI and robots will enhance human ability and expand our infinite possibilities, helping us enjoy more fulfilling lives. Society 5.0. For the betterment of human lives.
All right. So Society 5.0, the overarching. I prefer overarching. I prefer the French, unfortunately. The overarching terminology for all things AI in Japan. It's a government initiative, private and public partnerships, kind of a WEF element, but we're seeing the WEF element kind of fade away from the limelight, which is great. I don't mind quirky billionaires with weird plans, but I don't like them trying to make me eat the bugs and die early, which is kind of what they were always saying. Like, you'll own nothing and be happy and you'll eat the bugs. This is a terrible idea. Please stop meeting with our leaders. But now we're moving into the next phase, and it's definitely happening. I've been covering, so I worked at SoftBank from 2015 to 2020, just as a teacher, covering the developments of AI and IoT. And a lot of my students were engineers or VPs and stuff like that. And I learned to present good materials to them based on their feedback. So when I would present something like from the news or from like the BBC, they'd be like, well, it doesn't really show us anything about AI. So I would go digging and I'd go find stuff because I had this nice office in this 23rd floor of the Conrad building in Tokyo with a view of Tokyo Bay. So I'm like, I want to stay here. I like it here. And I just tried to work really hard to understand what was going on with the markets at the time. And this is before AI was so common and everywhere. So a lot of the times things were quirky or weird or just unfeasible, but it was definitely progressing in this way. And for about 5 years, I just dedicated my entire life to doing just living in an AI bubble, essentially. And at night, I was playing Jewish music in a band called the Dead Sea Dropouts. So I would do all this AI stuff. No one was telling me. I didn't have any real other teachers to work with. So I was just doing it by myself and presenting all this information to engineers, telecommunications engineers, and AI engineers and stuff. And then I would go and play Jewish music in little cafes around Tokyo at night. Very awesome part of my life. And, all good things come to an end, or, you can't really do that forever. COVID came along and changed all that, to be honest, which I hate. And I'm very bitter about, truly, truly bitter. It's like, well, this was great, but some people got the sniffles, so we all have to change now. And now our society is just plagued by tourism and low yen and blah, blah, blah. But anyways, this is not about that. Hopefully we can get into the better timeline again, because we're not in a good timeline now. But so I'm going to begin today by looking at AI agents. And this is something that is freaking me out. And I'll explain why. In the past, you just have a file on your computer and it wouldn't really change, or to change it would be incredibly difficult. But now with these data centers that we plug into, and we kind of act as interfacing with our devices as edge computers that query these data centers, and the data centers send us things in return. Well, the return aspect from the data center is only going to increase because they're becoming more and more powerful. So they're going to be able to further forward their presence into our computers via the link, via the data link, via the Internet of Things, essentially. And a lot of engineers will say, what? How can a computer be an Internet of Things when it should have gateways and all these like diagrams and things like that? Well, the Internet of Things is a wider topic, so I'm not addressing the engineers here. I'm kind of explaining how it's melding all together in a giant mushy pile of AI insanity, and it is getting crazy. And I used to say that the catastrophists got too much of the media attention when it came to AI. And they were saying things like the AI is going to become our friends and it's going to take our jobs and it's going to be like screw our wives and then kill us and all this stuff. And I would lambast it. And then the other side of the coin was the Western media companies are always trying to be like, what is AI? Why should we call it artificial intelligence? Is it smart? Gee, I don't know. The uncanny valley, the Turing questions. Meanwhile, Chinese companies are just going like, just make it recognize things and send notifications. Go, 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 go. They don't really philosophize about the terminology so much. And I prefer that aspect to it because it is just a technology. It's kind of like saying, Why do we put socks on our feet? Don't we already have feet? It's like this, it's just like pontificating for pontificating's sake in that regard. And it is a stupid word, but I guess if you're not Chinese, if you're not an English speaker natively, you just see AI as just a term, and it's like looking at a music chart and being like fortissimo. Oh, that means very loud, but you're not gonna go into the etymology of fort and fortis and fortissimo and all that. And why is it Italian? Anyways, it goes on. But now with the release of AI agents, we're getting like it's crazy town, and this goes into a potential supply chain war, a new phase. I'm not sure how to think about it yet, so I'm going to keep it to myself for now. But let's take a look here at the beginnings of this. So recently, OpenAI and SoftBank and Oracle, which is another major computer company, or sorry, not computer company, but services or whatever company. It's like he's not going into the details of what Oracle is. Nobody knows what Oracle is. Okay, they just have billions of dollars of data centers, so good for them. They announced with Trump that they're going to invest $500 billion into the United States for AI and AI research, and Musk doesn't like it, but blah, blah, blah. But SoftBank is where I worked, and they, the CEO, Masayoshi Son, is a singularitarian. He believes in the singularity, where we're all going to have this idea that our shoes can be as smart as us because of the amount of chips and transistors in the shoes will eventually equate a human intelligence, and you'll be able to be friends with your shoes. He used to kind of say stuff like that at his presentations. It sounds a bit wacky, but that's his kind of view on it, and it's a very idealistic view. It's a little bit of a boomer view as well, I might add, and I'm pretty sure that the Zoomers or the older millennials coming up don't necessarily share this 1950s sci-fi view or Star Trek view. Most of them probably don't even know what any of it is. But there's this idea where they share this vision of the technology and what the technology can do. And recently, the idea of AI agents is becoming more and more just of a thing. And corporations are going to love it. So let's get into it. This comes to us from SoftBank News, and I'm not sure where this is going, but maybe I do. OpenAI and SoftBank Group partnered to provide cutting-edge enterprise AI crystal intelligence in Japan ahead of the rest of the world. And that's the key point here, ahead of the rest of the world. On February 3rd, 2025, SoftBank Group and OpenAI announced a partnership to develop and sell the cutting-edge AI for business crystal intelligence. Oh, this is coming to us from SoftBank press releases, by the way. I was watching presentations and news articles and stuff like that, but they always go off into other directions, and this one just stays on topic, which is what I want to do. So that's why I'm reading it from SoftBank. I think SoftBank's a great company, but I'm not exactly 100% in agreement with everything they do. So just as a caveat. In addition, the two companies agreed to establish a joint venture, SB OpenAI Japan, to accelerate the deployment of crystal intelligence, AI for business customized for each company. On the same day at the event, Masayoshi Son, chairman of CEO SoftBank, and Sam Altman gave a presentation. And just for a little relevance here, at this presentation, Son said, "Today we are joined by executives from companies that account for approximately 50% of Japan's GDP. We have officially agreed to launch the world's most cutting-edge corporate AI in Japan," and he's extremely pleased to be announcing this. So let's just take a look here. So at this presentation, Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, they announced something called Deep Research, and this is to do with agents and how agents will evolve into operators that perform tasks while collecting information by browsing and searching the web. So they integrate text, images, PDFs, and create logically organized reports. It is characterized by its ability to complete highly complex research tasks that would take humans days in just a few minutes. And it is said to play an important role in corporate decision-making and economic activity. This is a step toward integrating knowledge and deriving new knowledge, and the company plans to announce further evolved versions in the future. So one of the aspects of this idea of agents here from the corporate enterprise, because SoftBank is really good at finding how to make money. Like they're really good at finding how to make money. And what they want to do is they want to develop agents targeting specific large corporations. SoftBank, for example, is a large corporation. It's been around for a long time. There's tons of divisions, and some of those divisions have been around for 20 years, maybe about. And a lot of the people that founded those divisions have moved on. And there's a lot of just code and data that nobody really knows how to understand or integrate with anything else there. These AI agents plan to go into these systems and assimilate the systems and find out how these systems can cross-reference with each other. That would just be one idea. Or how to mine data from the past and bring it into the future. That's just another idea. But nobody else knows how to do that. And they want to create a system for like Toyota, for Mitsui, for all these different ideas. So these large companies have the amount of money to invest in these systems. And the idea is that they would be able to create their own AI workforce that would help plan and manage data to move projects along more quickly. Japan is terrible. Not terrible, but Japan takes so long to do things these days. And everybody acknowledges that by the time a lot of these companies make a decision, the technology has already moved on. So you have to then go back and find a way to reintegrate it. And I'll be honest with you, I've been working a lot with managers in their 40s and 50s in the past 5 years, and they're terrible. They move slow. They're very bad at decision making. They'd rather just wait and wait and wait. And then the thing gets too late and they just get assigned to a new meeting and they go to that new meeting. And there's just opportunities just sliding past. And you go into these companies and it's like, why is all this old technology here when you could just replace it with something like much smaller and easier and it's just better? They're like, well, that would take a lot of effort. So there's like this real lack of initiative in a lot of these companies, and they're moving on and the technology is moving on. And they're not moving along with the technology. So the idea here is that these agents would be able to kind of discard a lot of the inefficiencies in these companies, which definitely do exist, and potentially find new value or move on, make the company move on to some next level that matches where we are in the mid 2020s as opposed to where we were in the mid 1990s, because you can't stay there forever, no matter how great it was. We're going to come back to this idea in a second because this is a press release, so it's basically an advertisement. But there's other companies in Japan that are also doing AI agents, and this just gives us a little bit more specificity. Genie Group Company Japan AI Co. Limited starts offering AI agent slide creation assistant. This is a semiotic creation of PowerPoint presentations. This comes to us from PR Times, so it's another PR thing, but it says this AI agent assists in creation of the slide materials, and it will take what you're doing and then make it graphically impressive, which is a ball ache, by the way, because I was having to design these slides for a company I just quit, and it took forever. And the people are like, why isn't it done yet? But it's like, I'm trying to design something here and put it into a slide, but the slide is not cooperating. So it's a big waste of time. The Slide Creation Assistant is an AI agent that creates the structure and text according to the purpose of the PowerPoint presentation you want to create. The aim is to reduce the time required to create documents by using the created materials as a starting point. There are two ways to use the Slide Creation Assistant depending on the structure and content of the materials. When you request the presentation, the Slide Creation Assistant will ask for the necessary information. Once you answer the questions, the Slide Creation Assistant will use web searches and other methods to gather any additional information you might need and will complete the presentation. Or request for documentation only, or the future outlook is this has been released as a general purpose slide creation AI agent. By applying this function, they'll be able to customize it and create materials that fit each company's format. Just an example. Anybody working at a large company will say, I spend way too much time making these stupid presentations, but they have the data, so why not automate it? Another one from PR Times. Remo Voice becomes a meeting AI agent. New function. By the way, there's a lot of people that work in companies that design for executives slide materials. So these people are making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year at times. Maybe they're gone now. 5 years, we won't need them. So that job is gone. So this idea of agents replacing jobs, it's here. It's happening. It's happening now. New function AI chat that uses AI to understand the flow of meetings and summarize key points in real time will be available from February 1st, 2025. This AI understands and organizes statements made during meetings in real time and immediately records important points and decisions. For example, if a new member says, "Tell me the main points of the discussion so far," the AI will immediately provide a summary. Also, during a business meeting, if you say, "Organize the details of the agreement on price and delivery date," you can accurately grasp the flow of the negotiation. Even after the meeting, the AI responds to instructions such as organize the conclusions of this meeting and clarify action items to quickly extract the necessary information. Support meetings for all styles. So, again, if you've ever been meetings, there's people taking minutes. You have to assemble these minutes. You spend a lot of time sending out the email and then maybe answering to questions, or people were absent and they have more questions. Well, now that can be automated. It's a terrible job and nobody wants to do it, but it's still a job, and it's a good way to learn about how a company operates. But 5 years from now, how many of those people are going to be around? Next, Avilion starts offering a highly accurate document processing AI agent, aiming to significantly reduce manual work and improve productivity. This comes to us from AI Smiley. In companies with many forms, conventional AI OCR, which means optical character recognition, of course, makes it conventional ones make it difficult to prepare in advance and track down causes of errors. To solve these problems, Avilion has developed a highly accurate form processing AI agent. The developed high precision form processing AI agent utilizes Avilion's extensive image and character recognition algorithm know-how to accurately read special layouts such as tables spanning multiple pages. It can automatically distinguish handwritten characters, faint characters, and corrections made with double lines, which would result in reading errors with conventional AI OCR, and can read them with high precision. For information that is difficult to read, the autonomous AI agent reports to the administrator like a human and can automatically correct the output format, etc. by instruction via chat. It is also possible to fully automate not only reading, but also registering it in the core systems. All right, so that sounds like a document assist. Okay, those people, gone, potentially. To get back to the idea of SoftBank, though, the nugget, the smidgen of insight that I was going to prepare for before. SoftBank Group plans to deploy hundreds of millions of AI agents, new business with OpenAI and Enterprise AI. This comes to us from ZDNet. So we were just reading a little bit from little companies offering a document reader here, and another company offering something else there, another company offering something else here. This was reminiscent, this trend was reminiscent of the QR code payments race that occurred in 2018, 2019. When I was working at SoftBank, I was tracking this trend very carefully because of the trends in China, where in just a 5 or 6 year period, payments from cash went from like 100% cash to like 10% cash, and from 0% QR code payment to like 60 or 70% QR code payment. So suddenly everybody in China switched to a cashless system via network and via phones. And I was like, well, that's what SoftBank has. They have networks, they have phones. And I started looking into their acquisitions, and it's like, whoa, they're acquiring QR code payment acquisition stuff. So I started tracking this because of just the interest and how I would get feedback. I would start tracking other startups in Japan or other companies that wanted to operate a QR code payment in Japan, because it was becoming very popular in some places, but not popular at all in Japan. And everybody I talked to in Japan said, no, that will never happen here. We don't need that. We like cash. So I was tracking companies like Origami, and they were getting like $10 million here, and other QR code payment systems. And then one day, as I was teaching about QR code payment systems at SoftBank announced the release of its payment system, PayPay, QR code or barcode payment system. And they backed it with $100 million in discounts and free purchases. So if you downloaded the app, PayPay, and you started using it, you would get automatically like 20% discounts, 100% discounts. So they flooded it with free money. And some people would just go into an app store, or not an app store, would go into an electronics store, buy a few MacBooks, buy a refrigerator, and just take the gamble and boom, 100% off, then resell it if they wanted to. Didn't matter. SoftBank didn't care. They just wanted people using it, and use it they did. So with this, and now we don't use origami. Now we don't use anything. Now it's just PayPay. It's the one thing in Japan that everybody uses, and SoftBank made it, and I tracked it. What SoftBank is doing here, SoftBank Group plans to deploy hundreds of millions of AI agents, new business with OpenAI and Enterprise AI. It's the same approach. They're trying to flood the market so everybody else stops using the individualistic AIs that these document AI, or what were some of the other ones? AI agent taking notes and things like that. A slide assistant and things like that. Yeah, very cute, guys. How are you going to compete against a major telecommunications company invested into one of the most powerful AI companies, OpenAI, in the world, creating hundreds of millions of AI agents into flooding the most powerful companies in Japan to replace the aging workforce that are largely inefficient and full of knobs with highly trained, data efficient, 24/7, 365 workers, hundreds of millions of them. And you're getting these major corporations to invest hundreds of millions of dollars into this because it's a lot cheaper than hiring a bunch of millennials who don't know anything about anything outside of a smartphone and potentially Excel or something like that. Sorry, millennials, you don't know much. You don't make good workers. You try hard, but you don't actually do much. So you're not having babies. So society is going to move on without you. So we have hundreds of millions of these AI agents that are going to flood the market. A lot of them are going to be stupid or not work, or some people will invest a lot of money and they'll fail. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The fact is that they're coming and they're here and they're feasible. Some of the elite coders of the world are saying, I don't even code anymore. I vibe code. I interact with, via voice, AI agent coders. And this is like the head of computer vision for Tesla, the X1. He was previously the head of, and he's saying, I don't even code anymore. I just interact with AI and I say, do this, copy and paste here. That's not working. Just redo the code there, move the indent over here. And they call it vibe coding. The lead coders of the world are managing mini teams of AI coders. Do you not think that's going to spread to everything else? Now that we're in a cloud-based wireless communication system society, who knows what's going to go on? But that's my smidgen of insight. That's my smidgen of insight there. The reason why SoftBank is deploying hundreds of millions of them is because they want to flood the market so that only companies use the SoftBank solution backed by OpenAI. This also goes into the Japan government's plan to have AI governance laws written by major corporations as well, such as Microsoft. Microsoft is in part owned by OpenAI. And so we have this team there, and it's kind of going all in. Last week, I covered how SoftBank, Masayoshi Son, pledged $50 billion during Trump's first term to create AI systems in America. And now that Trump's back, he pledged $500 billion. And this goes back to a document that was written, I believe, by retired Brigadier General Spalding. And I was communicating with him a bit in the past week about this. And he was right on the money when he said that to create an effective, this is a 5G system, basically. This is what 5G is basically for. To create a 5G system, Japan needs to be all in, and we need to fight against the AI arms race with China. And this goes back into the supply chain war by having Japan become a hub of G7 AI manufacturing, essentially. Yeah, crazy. So that's going to be that. Crazy. I may as well do that right now. So to go away, to go into the United States deep state aspect of this and with the concept of competing with China, the next part here goes into Palantir. Palantir is founded by Peter Thiel, who is a tech investor. But anyways, Palantir is one of the original high-tech AI systems that looked at exploiting loopholes in American intervention activities abroad to prevent terrorist activities from occurring on American soil. So this involves a lot of profiling and data and analytics, targeting individuals abroad and seeing whether they can be targeted or not under U.S. Jurisdiction. It's kind of a basic overview. Maybe Palantir engineers disagree with this. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Palantir engineers. I kind of disagree with it too, but just for brevity, that's what it does. This connects in a way. Just give me a second here. And Peter Thiel was one of J.D. Vance's tutors. So J.D. Vance is the VP of the United States government right now. And they are involved somehow. So this lineup of tech bros and America first with Japan operating on the edge here ties in together. And it's kind of Japan is being used as a buffer zone against the expansion of China, of course. Who else can do it? This tweet or this post comes to us as a comment from Palantir's chief technical officer, S. Sankar, Shyam Sankar. He's a CTO at Palantir, and he's disagreeing with OpenAI CEO's Sam Altman. And this is just a 2-minute clip about that, and it's just to kind of position it back into a wider perspective of what is going on here. And this has to do with China's release of DeepSeek, which is another large language model that was released for pennies on the dollar by a hedge fund that took trillions of market cap out of the G7 chip manufacturers for a period of time. So this is just an exchange that illustrates further kind of a deeper resonance of what's going on here and how it's not just one thing ends and another thing begins, but these are loosely connected, and there's a lot going on underneath the surface here that a lot of us don't realize.
How will the new Chinese AI model DeepSeek impact Palantir, and how can Palantir mitigate its impact?
Well, I think one of the obvious lessons of DeepSeek R1 is something that we've been saying for the last 2 years, which is that the models are commoditizing. Yes, they're getting better across both closed and open, but they're also getting more similar, and the price of inference is dropping like a rock. But I think the real lesson, the more profound one, is that we are at war with China. We are in an AI arms race. And I got into a disagreement with Sam Altman about this at the Senate AI Summit over a year ago, where I was arguing that we are in an AI arms race, and there's an opposing view that we can all get along and we can cooperate on these things. And I'm sure the other side feels quite different, realizing that their IP has been stolen in this process here. But this war started long ago. It was an economic war with the ascension of China to the World Trade Organization, the greatest IP theft in history, the greatest wealth transfer in history. It is an opium war. The number one cause of deaths of 18 to 45-year-olds in this country is fentanyl. That is coming from China. It is a diplomatic war. The Belt and Road Initiative is basically indentured servitude for other countries to the CCP here. And the unprecedented phase zero gray zone operations of the CCP, how many times are we going to believe that anchors are dragged across the sea to cut undersea cables here? But I think one of the things, China knows they're at war. The question is, we kind of equivocate on it as a peace-loving nation. But one of the things I want to make sure we all do realize is that the engineering in R1 is exquisite. The optimizations that they've done are really impressive. And I don't think you can get away with the facile explanation that the Chinese just copy and we're the only innovators. We have to wake up with the respect for our adversary and realize that we are competing. But they absolutely did steal a lot of that through distillation of the models, and perhaps they stole even more. And then you can look at the GPU sales growth in Singapore. It's a tiny island nation. I'm pretty sure there's some sanction invasion going on there. And we have to realize that the AI race is winner take all, and it's going to be a whole of nation effort that extends well beyond the DoD in order for us as a nation to win. And that M Day was yesterday. The time to mobilize has come.
All right. So the time to mobilize has come. Now, all of a sudden, we have potentially SoftBank deploying hundreds of millions of these things to drive down the cost and increase the effectiveness on the G7 side. Maybe we're playing a Chinese game here. I'm not sure. Isn't that nuts? It's weird that the CTO of Palantir basically just said in a very short and summarized statement, in many ways, what I've been saying. And I read partially that statement by the CTO, but that's the first time I've listened to it in full. And it's like we're overlapping each other. And that's the CTO of Palantir. All right. I'm stressing this because we are in a new phase, not only of AI, but how it's going to affect all of the things that we do in work. I don't even know what these people are trying to do. Like, to summarize, when the T Ford, the Model T Fords were coming out, okay, we have these cars. Well, people need to drive them. So Ford would increase the wages so that people would be able to buy them and drive them. And it led to like roads, and it led to expansion, and it led to all sorts of crazy things that were really interesting that happened for humans. But like, what are we doing with like just having corporations filled with computers? What are we supposed to do? What are we like? We're not going out for lunch with people. We're not distributing like wealth amongst our communities, or we're not traveling here and coming back to another place to and we'd spread money around and we'd go to restaurants. It's like, is that phase coming to an end as well? Like, I'm not sure. What's the factor of the human in all of this? Like, we could kind of say we're going to trade this horse for a car, but it's like if a lot of people like working, like we're supposed to work. We're supposed to do something that gives us something so that we can do something for our families and stuff like that. But what am I just going to, or is this the UBI just wander around? It's like some sort of free North Korea. I don't know what the implication is for humans. And so I have two kids that are like 4 years old and 1 year old. And I can look at young kids today and be like, you're a 25-year-old, but really you're as mature as an 18-year-old. You're not really mature at all. You grew up watching Instagram, and you've never watched a movie without a phone in your hand, I can tell. You've never listened to an album, probably, without a phone in your hand. So there's this whole generation of people that are just entering into this phase. But what about in 10, 15, 20 years when my kids enter this phase? What's that going to look like? What are they going to be moving into? And the answer is, don't know. People can be catastrophic and say, well, it all is going to collapse. Like, what if the grid goes down? Okay, then we're living like savages in the woods, and we're gathering and we're harvesting and we're eating the bugs. Okay, Klaus Schwab wins. But what is this idea of just replacing hundreds of millions of workers with AI agents that scoot around in some infrastructure of wirelessly connected data fueled by algorithms inside of a company's pre-existing siloed data sets? Like, it's, who knows what it means? It's existential in a way. And I feel that way. I've been feeling that way a lot ever since these AI agents have been just exploding into the wider perception of our cognizance. Anyways, moving on with, how much time have I been going here? With some more, just regarding like the previous phase of what I was doing with Japan Society 5.0 was just tracking like markets and stuff like that. And I'm going to continue with that. But if you've been listening to the podcast for the past year, you'll know what Frido is, or Free ID. And this is a facial recognition platform being used in building construction. So like a new condominium goes up, and Frido says, hey, why don't you use our facial recognition platform to create new value for the people that want to live there? Okay, sure. So you buy this new condominium, and it comes with facial recognition cameras that you can use your face to unlock doors, unlock whatever, maybe do some ordering, and you pay with your face, stuff like that. 10 years ago, even that was kind of crazy. But this Frido platform is like 1,000th as crazy as 100 million AI agents like floating around inside of your company data. It's a totally different level. It's like we went from like a plateau and now we're like shooting up like on a rocket ship. Open House Real Estate to introduce DXYZ's facial recognition platform Frido for its first all facial recognition apartment building. I'm not going to go too much into this, but Open Bloom Oku Asakusa is located in an area of Asakusa, Taito Ward, Tokyo, where shopping streets and arcades are at the heart of daily life. The top floor is a premium floor with only 2 3LDK units. Nice. 3LDK. Perfect. DXYZ will introduce Frido in 6 locations: the main entrance, mail and delivery boxes, sub-entrance, trash area, and 2 rooms on the premium floor. Furthermore, residents on the premium floor will be able to move from the entrance floor to their rooms without needing to carry keys and will be able to do so entirely by facial recognition, realizing an all facial recognition lifestyle. So that's one aspect there. I've been covering this for a while. If you're interested, just go to MatthewPMBigelow.com and look for DXYZ or Frido, and that's FREEID, free ID, but it's pronounced Frido. Next one. DXYZ of the Bigaro Group introduces Frido facial recognition to apartments in Fukuoka. So Frido is taking over the world. If you've been listening to this podcast, you're like, yeah, I know, Frido, big deal. Nobody knows about Frido except us. Frido, a facial recognition platform powered by DXYZ, a group company of Migaro Holdings, will be adopted into an apartment building being developed by the Fukuoka branch of La Attraite in Minato Ward, Tokyo. The first apartment building will be a new condominium to be developed in Fukuoka City. This will be the first in the Kyushu area to feature facial recognition in all residential areas with Frido installed. There we go. I'm not going to go too much into it. Next one. Prefecture Police to introduce AI camera analysis at all 18 police stations in the new fiscal year to quickly process huge amounts of footage. This kind of goes into the idea of moving away from the private industry into our public industries like the police. This is a surveillance statey. This is surveillance capitalism-y in a way. The prefectural police have decided to introduce a system that uses AI to analyze security camera footage from all 18 police stations in the prefecture in fiscal 2025. They plan to introduce in fiscal 2025. The system uses AI to analyze the footage and extract people with similar gender, age, and characteristics. Security camera investigations are becoming increasingly important nationwide, and the key to early arrests is how quickly and efficiently the vast amounts of footage related to the crime can be analyzed. Probably a good idea, to be honest with you. Gunma Prefecture 2025 Budget Proposal, Safety AI Camera Footage Analysis. This is just a very short article here. It's behind a paywall, but again, it goes into the idea of government style. In order to improve the efficiency of investigations, the Gunma Prefecture Police will allocate 35 million yen to the introduction of a system that uses AI to analyze security camera footage. There are an increasing number of cases in which footage is used as a key clue, which will lead to the identification of the perpetrator and early resolution of the case. That's that. So that's going to be Japan Society 5.0 for today. So the crazy difference between you going to work one day and it's like, hey, we don't need you as a researcher anymore. What do you mean? Well, I'm just prompting an AI. Okay. Do you need me for anything else? Why would we need you? You're human. You want to go on break. So it's been great knowing you. Okay. Sure. In like 10 years, will an entire corporation fit on a thumb drive? And it's just this thumb drive is connected to like the internet somehow. And it's making trillions of dollars. There's like one dude flying around in space. It's like, I'm a trillionaire and I don't have to pay anyone. This is great. Who knows? But the idea that we're going to use facial recognition for apartment buildings, you just walk up, there's a camera, boop, unlocks, look at your door, boop, unlocks. Even that's crazy. But it's so less crazy from that AI agent thing. Blows my mind. And I guess this does go into the supply chain war because China's trying to export their own social credit score style AI camera networks with AI agents that analyze everything too. So I'm not sure if this is Freedom AI or Frido AI. Is that a coincidence? I wonder. But it's not in the future. It's happening now. And yeah, no one else knows about those, that smidgen there, by the way. That's like the ultimate takeaway from the podcast, looking at how SoftBank developed its pay system and how it conquered the entire market. And it's doing the exact same thing right now.
The fourth industrial revolution will enable us to create a new society. Artificial intelligence will transform the big data collected through the Internet of Things into new wisdom. Society 5.0, a technology-based, human-centered society. The fourth industrial revolution will raise our standard of living and solve various challenges we face. It will, for example, free us from the stress of driving, allowing us to safely visit anyone, anytime. We will have access to the latest medical advancements at a low cost, no matter where we are. AI and robots will enhance human ability and expand our infinite possibilities, helping us enjoy more fulfilling lives. Society 5.0, for the betterment of human lives.
All right, and that's going to be the podcast for today. So I'm going to leave you with a song generated by AI, by Suno. And what I do is I used up all my credits last month, so I was kind of mining the depths of my AI playlists there. But what I've done today is I've taken all the headlines from today's podcast and I put them into Grok, and I asked Grok to write some sonnets. We go back and forth a little bit, take this out, put this in, and then I get Suno to write a song based on today's podcast to review the contents of the podcast via song generated by AI. So I'm going to leave that with y'alls. But before we get into that, just make sure to go to MatthewPMBigelow.com. Maybe leave a donation at paypal.me/JapanWUT. And to check out podcasts on all podcasting 2.0 infrastructure, I use Podverse and Fountain. Get into it. It's censorship proof and it's censorious proof, and it's the same thing, but it's future proof as well, because sometimes these podcasts will disappear, but these podcast apps hopefully will not. So this is the song. Until next time, everybody, I bid thee a warmful and heartful Ja Mata.
In lands where tech and tradition intertwine, Japan now stands at the forefront of AI. With SoftBank and open AI's grand design, crystal intelligence lights up the sky. It's not in the future, it's happening now. On the Japan Wood podcast, this change is here. From slide creation to remove voice of all, AI agents make tasks swift and clear. Autonomous coding with Junie ascends, while Evelyn's AI transforms paperwork. Hundreds of millions of agents descend. SoftBank's new venture, a global perk. Yet in this progress, a shadow does loom. Hackers use AI for credit card doom. Beneath the waves, China's new submarine hides. not in the future, it's happening now. On the Japan Wood Podcast, the world awakes. From AI deals in Korea takes new bow to AI's using Chrome for goodness sake. Gonna commits to safety with AI's eye, budgeting for tech to watch from the sky.
All right. Some of those songs, lyrics, were about headlines that I didn't include in today's podcast. If you're interested, go to MatthewPMBigelow.com.
You